name's Jaya Griscom, and I'm predominantly a textile artist, but I also work in printmaking. I would describe my artistic style as kind of searching for a balance as much as possible. So my work is largely quite dramatic in scale. So I tend to try to kind of balance that out with a little bit of a more muted color palette and find kind of layers of subtlety in my work so it's not too overwhelming and you can kind of have more nuanced parts to connect with as well as kind of the larger overall scope. As a fiber artist, I'm really drawn to the actual fibers that I'm using and kind of their origin and what those materials are, and then I'll grow different plants in my garden to dye them with, or I'll end up using fabric sometimes that already sort of has had a history and life to it and end up deconstructing old clothing and piecing things back together to recontextualize them. So a lot of my inspiration comes from the materials that I'm using and kind of how I can draw the most out of them and sort of find an intersection between that and whatever message or idea I'm trying to convey in the work itself. This piece that I had made with the hands is a woven piece that I had made on a digital jacquard loom. So I started by taking photographs of my own hands in different positions and drafting those into then a pattern, which I digitized and converted into like an interlocking pattern for creating an actual weaving and then hand wove it, which is a fairly lengthy process as things go. I do find that I tend to kind of reiterate various subject matter or ideas in my artwork, so they tend to kind of flow one into the next. And I've worked a lot with kind of different ways to capture or depict the human form, as well as various other kind of mark making or communication sort of grammars or terminologies, even things like cartography and methods to make maps, or even geometries that are used to relay different kind of philosophical or religious concepts that are more ephemeral. So this piece started actually with making 3D scans of the body. So I had made a digital 3D model, essentially, of my head and bust, and then essentially sliced it into the various contour lines at different levels in my own body to create essentially a topographical map, which I then made into various printmaking plates and printed in a very kind of translucent ink, one on top of the other, to build up the saturation in all of the places that then had the most depth, essentially as one would with creating an actual topographical map or chart of the ocean. I mean, I think that in general, I'm very interested in the human form as a whole, the human body, and kind of the ways that our bodies interact with the world. I think there are lots of great things about being an artist, but perhaps my favorite is I tend to think of art as a way to interact with the world and interact with other people and kind of as a method of communication. So I would say to have so many sort of avenues at your disposal to communicate and connect with others beyond what we typically can do just verbally is probably my favorite thing